In this video, we're going to be taking a look at the latest unrestricted free agent rumors and some NHL trade rumors from around the league. What's going on with Erik Karlsson? Are things getting closer with the Pittsburgh Penguins? There's a lot more heightened rumors about what the package might look like, and the Sharks may not only be moving Karlsson, they might also be looking to move their captain, Logan Couture. We'll talk about a potential deal we have there. We also have some rumors around the Buffalo Sabres, and like I said, we'll get updated on the latest on some of the key UFAs still out there as well. A lot coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have a variety of NHL trade rumors and some UFA rumors to get started with here. So let's start with that here in this video. So there's obviously not a ton of free agents still in the market. Lots of RFAs, and that's going to be, being ticked away here throughout the summer. But still some interesting names on the UFA market, but that list is getting smaller every day. For example, Vladimir Tarasenko certainly leads the way, I think, for being the highest profile player still on the market. Right now we're hearing, Nashville, Carolina, Ottawa, San Jose being the main teams in the mix. I think for the most part, they've all got things they're working on for other deals, and I think he's kind of waiting it out, trying to get the best deal that he feels is the best fit for him. Obviously, he must be somewhat interested in either most or all of those teams, so we'll see how things work out, but it is sound, according to Elliotte Friedman, that he's going to end up signing a one-year deal. So whoever gets him should have a motivated Tarasenko to have a big season so he can hopefully cash in more next year. Still lots of other names out there as well. Tomas Tatar, another fairly prominent UFA right now. I'm not sure exactly where he's going to end up, but there's been some talk that he's getting interest from the Colorado Avalanche. They could certainly benefit from another top 9 or top 6 forward, and they do have a little bit of cap space, but they do also need to sign Ross Colton as well. So some of these teams, I think that might be part of it for some teams is that is the holdup, is they're trying to get some RFAs on. They don't know how much other cap space they need. So they don't want to go sign a UFA player and then, leave themselves too short or something and make things more complicated, be forced to make another move that they don't really want to do. Obviously, keeping care of your internal players first, for the most part, is generally, a priority, but sometimes you see players get signed when you're not expecting it, and that kind of gives the team what they feel to be leverage to say, well, this is all we have left for space, take it or leave it type of deal. I don't know if the teams are necessarily going to do that, but sometimes it does. Besides those guys, though, you do have Phil Kessel still out there, Matt Dumba, and then a number of other guys too. Still a handful of goalies out there like Martin Jones. I'm not sure about Brian Elliott. Haven't heard anything about him. If he's retiring or whatnot, he is getting up there in years. Thomas Greiss announced he's retiring today, so he's off the UFA list. So certainly it's some interesting names out there for sure, but right now we don't have a lot to go on for them. We did also hear today that the Buffalo Sabres might be having second thoughts on trading Victor Olofsson. Now, Olofsson's a player I've talked about in the past couple of days. There was a suggestion that he might end up on a team like the division rival Ottawa. After seeing the Sens deal with Detroit, there was some talk that we might also see them deal with Buffalo. Victor Olofsson and his agent both fully expected Olofsson to be moved once the season was ended, and they went on their way from the offseason. They did not think they'd be returning to Buffalo, but now it's looking more likely that it's a bigger possibility. Not a given, of course. If they find the right trade, they still might do it. But he's got 1 year left on his contract, and they just very well might let him play it out. And, I guess if depending on how things go, consider negotiating with some in season perhaps. But at the end of the day, Olofsson is a player that's, a decent goal scorer. At some points in his career, has been known more of a power play specialist. He did get a little bit better scoring 5-on-5 in the past few years as well. But he's a proven 20-goal guy. So there's no doubt that there's interest around the league. But clearly the Sabres, as much as they can't command too much of a return for a player like him, they also haven't done it. So clearly they're not that anxious to make the trade. But Jack Quinn ended up with a fairly serious injury in the offseason, I believe from a training accident. Sounds like an Achilles injury, I think it is. So he's going to be out for an extended time. So that very well could adjust who's available on their roster. And, depending if they don't get another player back and then they move him, and then they have Quinn out, that this could lead them a little bit too short. So they may have a scenario here where they don't move him, and they let him kind of play out his contract. So we'll have to see where that goes, but obviously not a given anymore that he is moved after all. Erik Karlsson to Pittsburgh seems to be picking up steam from what we're hearing, but it's hard to say. Things could still take some time because it's still complicated for sure. But I know the Penguins are clearly the front runner, and obviously, the Carolina Hurricanes are in the mix there. I don't know if they have a great chance, to be completely honest. I think the Carolina Hurricanes have other business they want to tend to, and they're probably not going to really do that until this Karlsson saga is over. And I think some of these other teams that are, obviously looking to see what's going on are watching this as well, because it could impact the overall trade market for sure. Now, in this case, the rumor is that the Penguins are offering San Jose a package of 2 first-round picks, 2 prospects, and the San Jose Sharks would also take defenseman Jeff Petrie. Now, salary would have to be retained on San Jose's side, but it's not going to be a full 50%. It sounds like right now the Sharks are looking somewhere between 30 and 40%. To me, that's a pretty good trade-off. Who the prospects would be, I don't know. I'm sure one would be a defense prospect, probably either Ty Smith or maybe P.O. Joseph, but I'm thinking the Penguins would prefer to keep Joseph and move Smith if they could. But they're not going to pass up an opportunity to include a player like that for Erik Karlsson. But I think if they have their pick, I think it'd be Smith going in the package, and probably a forward prospect in any other role. I'm not sure if it'd be newly drafted Owen Pickering or would it be Samuel Poulet. I don't know. Hard to say who exactly the Sharks would kind of zone in on, but 2 first, 2 prospects, and they agree to take Petrie, and that could get the deal done. Now, how will it all work? It might have to take some time though before you see this be executed, because as I mentioned yesterday, in the last couple of days, Pittsburgh is looking to likely take Drew O'Connor to arbitration. He has an arbitration date coming up here, not too distant future, and if that happens and it's settled through arbitration, they can do a buyout, and I think they would then buy out Mikael Granlund. So if the Granlund contract gets bought out and Petrie can be included, then that would free up enough money to give the Penguins the ability to bring Karlsson in. So that certainly would make things a lot easier from a money perspective that way. Now, of course, Petrie has still a couple of years left on his contract, so same with Granlund. If they can move both of those and bring in a guy like Karlsson, that would be phenomenal. But that certainly is a lot when it's something they don't have a lot of. They don't have a very deep pool of players waiting to jump in for a future. So we'll have to see where that goes. But it's sounding more and more likely that Pittsburgh is the landing spot, and that's pretty close, I think, to what the trade package is going to end up being. But as I mentioned, the Sharks might not only move Erik Karlsson, they might move their captain, Logan Couture, as well. His name has been drumming up in the rumor mill. I think they've had some conversations around him. Again, doesn't mean it happens because it is a lot of money we're talking about and it is complicated, but there is some suggestion that we know the Washington Capitals are looking to find a first start for Evgeny Kuznetsov, and that maybe a Kuznetsov-Couture swap might be something that works for both sides. Now, in Washington's case, it gives them more term because Couture has 4 years left at $8 million, whereas Kuznetsov only has 2 years left at 7.8. So at San Jose, they don't save a ton of cap room. It's only a little bit of a difference, but they have a 2-year commitment instead of 4. So long term, it really helps them get off the hook a lot sooner. Now, there was some speculation that Anthony Mantha could also be involved in this deal. I don't think he would be, with it being the 2-for-1 contract, though, because I think the money would get way too complicated. He still has a year left at 5.7. So between Mantha and Kuznetsov, they're making $13.5 million. There's no way San Jose could take that on while only having $8 million going out. So personally, where Mantha only has the 1 year, I think it would probably either be a Couture for Kuznetsov. If that does not work for both sides, something else would have to be included to round things out. But it may not be Mantha because that's not a favorable contract in the lease. So, Washington could let him play that out and be done with it after another year. And then, of course, they could have Couture be a fixture. He's playing at a higher level, at least has been more lately compared to Kuznetsov. But do they really want to move out a 2-year contract for a 4-year contract? From a San Jose perspective, it makes sense because they free up a lot of space a lot sooner than they would hanging on to their captain. But we'll have to see where that goes. Couture's making $8 million, has 4 years left, whereas Kuznetsov has 7.8. So maybe Mantha has nothing to do with this, and it's straight up Kuznetsov for Couture. The money is pretty close to even. The only difference is that Couture has more terms. So perhaps at that point, Washington includes something else to make things even. Maybe it's Kuznetsov and a draft pick for Couture. That to me would make a lot of sense. I mean, Logan Couture, however, does have a 3-team modified no trade clause, and if the Capitals aren't on that, he would have to consent to the trade. I don't know how he'd feel about that or who his 3 teams would be. His name has been out there, but it's not really something that we've seen a lot of talk about. I mean, there is also talk about Kevin LeBanc maybe going to Vancouver or somewhere later this offseason as well. So you have to think that even though we're fair ways now into the offseason, the Sharks could be very different by opening night. There is no doubt that there's some big blockbuster trades that Mike Grier and the San Jose Sharks are entertaining and talking about right now. Be curious to see if any of them get pulled off. That's all your news and rumors for tonight. Let me know all your thoughts and everything down in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with the latest news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.